Hey guys, it's Lord of the Pogs. I've been on a time travel kick the last few weeks. I've always been fascinated by time travel. Actually, I'm just fascinated by the unknown, and time travel is something that gets talked about a lot. But it's a little bit more in the realm of science fiction than science fact. However, there have been accounts of people who have allegedly traveled through time. If you watched my last video, you know I ended it with mention of the Moberly Jourdain incident, one of the most famous claims of time travel, wherein two women claimed to have visited the period of the French Revolution briefly. Anne Moberly, born in 1846 and the 10th of 15 children, came from a professional background. Her father, George Moberly, was the headmaster of Winchester College, and Anne was the first principal of St. Hugh's College in Oxford, a residence hall for women. Eleanor Jourdain, born in 1863, was the oldest of 10 children. She was the author of several textbooks and assistant to Anne at Oxford. Anne and Eleanor traveled by train to Versailles on August 10, 1901, to visit the Palace of Versailles as part of several trips around Paris. They wanted to walk through the gardens to the Petit Trianon, but found that it was closed to the public after reaching the Grand Trianon. They became lost after missing the turn for the main avenue, Allée des Deux Trianon, and entered an alley. Anne recalled that she noticed a woman shaking a cloth out of a window, and Eleanor recalled that she noticed a farmhouse with an old plow sitting outside. They described a feeling of oppression and dreariness, after which men, who they thought looked like palace gardeners, described as very dignified officials, dressed in long grayish-green coats with small three-cornered hats, told them to go straight on. Eleanor recalled that she noticed a cottage with a woman holding out a jug to a girl in the doorway, describing it as a tableau vivant, a living picture, similar to Madame Tussauds waxworks. Anne said,
"Everything suddenly looked unnatural, therefore unpleasant. Even the trees seemed to become flat and lifeless, like woodwork in tapestry. There were no effects of light and shade, and no wind stirred the trees."
They reported reaching the Temple de l'Amour and coming across a man seated beside a garden kiosk, wearing a cloak and a large shady hat.
His appearance was most repulsive, his expression odious. His complexion was dark and rough.
Eleanor noted,
"The man slowly turned his face, which was marked by smallpox. His complexion was very dark. The expression was evil, yet unseeing, and though I did not feel that he was looking particularly at us, I felt a repugnance going past him."
Anne noticed a lady in a light summer dress and white shady hat sitting on the grass drawing who looked at them as they crossed the bridge to reach the gardens in front of the palace. When they returned to the palace, they were directed to the entrance and joined a party of other visitors and had tea at the Hotel des Reservoirs before returning to Eleanor's apartment. Apparently, they thought the Trianon was haunted, but upon visiting again on several occasions, they were unable to retrace the path they had taken. The bridge and the kiosk were missing, and the previously vacant grounds were now full of people. They thought they might have stumbled upon a private party, but no such event had been booked for that day. In their research, they recognized the man by the kiosk as Comte de Vaudreuil, a nobleman in the court of King Louis XVI. Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain published their experience in a work titled An Adventure, but many critics have not taken it seriously because of implausibilities, inconsistencies, and historical inaccuracies. Additionally, both women reported paranormal experiences both before and after the Moberly Jourdain incident. Anne reported having seen an apparition of the Roman Emperor Constantine at the Louvre in 1914, wearing a gold crown and a toga, but this wasn't seen by anyone else. The French poet Robert de Montesquieu apparently lived near the Palace of Versailles and occasionally had parties where he and others would dress in period costume and perform. According to author Philip Julian, Anne and Eleanor may have stumbled unknowingly onto one of these events. So did the Moberly Jourdain incident really happen? While it's not outside the realm of possibility, it is unlikely, and as far as such things go, it is considered debunked. A shot from the 1928 Charlie Chaplin film The Circus purportedly shows a woman walking by, talking into a thin black device that resembles a smartphone. Some have concluded that this person is a time traveler. Notwithstanding that the absence of cell phone towers in 1928 would have rendered a smartphone useless, the most likely explanation is that she was using a portable hearing aid called an ear trumpet. This photograph from 1941 allegedly shows a time traveler front and center. However, the style of sunglasses he's wearing were developed in the 1920s. He seems to be wearing a screen-printed t-shirt, but it's most likely a Montreal Maroons sweater. This style of clothing was standard for sports teams of the period. He does look out of place because he's dressed so much more casually than those around him, but none of the clothing he's wearing was unavailable when the picture was taken. This photograph from 1943 allegedly shows a man using a smartphone. However, cultural experts of the time period state he's most likely rolling a cigarette. The legend of Rudolph Fentz goes like this. One evening around midnight in June 1951, a man in his late 20s, dressed in the fashion of the late 19th century, disoriented and confused, was seen standing in the middle of an intersection. No one observed how he got there, and before anyone could interact with him, he was hit by a taxi and killed. Officials searched his body and found the following items in his pockets. A copper token for a beer worth 5 cents bearing the name of a bar that wasn't known to exist. A bill for the care of a horse and the washing of a carriage drawn by a livery stable on Lexington Avenue with an address that didn't exist. About $70. Business cards with the name Rudolph Fentz and a letter written to him dated 1876. Although the money, the bill, and the letter were all dated as being about 80 years old, none of the items found showed any signs of aging. The address shown on the business cards was a business, but the owner didn't know Rudolph Fentz. Additionally, his fingerprints didn't match any on record, and no one by that name had been reported missing. However, further investigation found a Rudolph Fentz Jr. who had died about 5 years previously. His father, Rudolph Fentz, had been reported missing in 1876 at age 29. This story has been told and retold as a factual event, although no tangible evidence of such an occurrence can be found. However, it has been traced to a science fiction story published by Jack Finney in 1951. In 2004, Washington-based attorney Andrew Basiago claimed that between 1968 and 1972, he participated in a number of bizarre experiments called Project Pegasus that took him on journeys through time. Several of his voyages led him to the 1800s, and on one occasion he found himself at Gettysburg on November 19, 1863, the day that President Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address. Basiago claims that he lost his shoes during the voyage and was given a new pair when he arrived, but that they were too big. He wandered away from the crowd to avoid drawing attention to himself. He claims that he is the boy in this photograph. According to the Library of Congress, it was taken at Gettysburg on November 19, 1863, by a photographer named Matthew Brady. It's also the first ever discovered photograph of Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg. He's standing in the crowd with his hat off, and this picture was probably taken around noon, about 3 hours before he gave the Gettysburg Address. So, is this photograph proof of time travel? No, it's not. It's interesting, and it's a fun story, but unfortunately, there's no way to positively identify the boy in the picture. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a tip. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that little bell in the corner to get notifications on more videos like this one.